Intel's gonna slap you with some faster FPS.
Motorola's gonna slap you.
Owie. And AMD is gonna slap you. They're not supporting your GPU no more. It's ending.
Slaps.
It's actually ending now. Officially.
It's over.
Oh boy. Let's get into hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Thursday, October 26, 2023. We're going to start off today talking about some frame rate boosts that turns out is actually being given in the 14th gen chips that Intel has released recently using their new software known as application optimization, or Intel's APO. Because people out on the internet found out that if you use this on certain video games like CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, they're being tested out. We're seeing anywhere from like a 10 to 25% increase in FPS.
Which is wild.
Yes, it's just a little toggle that you turn on saying, hey, optimize my application. And turns out one of the things that this does is build on Intel's Thread Director technology, which originally launched in the 12th gen because of the P-core and E-core architecture, and Windows has to optimize whatever's going on. Intel worked on that software a little bit more, and now it's a 14th gen exclusive feature. I haven't really found out what separates the 14th gen hardware-wise to make it so that it can't be backwards compatible with 12th and 13th gen, but it is currently only available on 14th, but this wasn't really in the marketing. I mean, Intel did talk about APO, but not to the point where we're seeing personal reports coming out of how much faster these games are being because of turning on APO. Not something that Intel sold like DLSS, being like, it's 25% faster.
If you enable this thing.
Right, which is how NVIDIA markets everything. And so, that, like, hey, if you're getting an extra little bonus because you can click on a button for
I can do that.
a software feature set that's only exclusively available on your hardware, and the company didn't sell it as a bonus feature and it's just there, I guess that's good.
Yeah. I really can't find a way to be angry about this in any way, so.
I can. I know the response is, why can't it be enabled on 12th and 13th gen?
Okay, fair enough.
That's going to be the question. I'm not entirely sure why not. But it can also be used for other applications. It doesn't necessarily have to be extended to games, but they learned from Thread Director, and now they're making it so that they can make per software application optimizations.
Yeah.
It's a neat little feature. And we might get a neat little feature on Apple's Scary Fast event that's going to be taking place next Monday, the 30th, because while it's been reported that it's likely going to be an iMac only event, there now are some more reports coming out that a MacBook Pro might actually be unveiled.
Interesting.
With the M3 chip, this likely will be the 13-inch MacBook Pro, not the 14 and 16-inch, which would have the M3 Pro and the M3 Max. And we're also getting images of the box for this M3 MacBook Pro.
That is new.
Yes, so it likely will be sold in only limited quantities because, as has been mentioned, the reason they're not launching this in the MacBook Air or their most popular MacBook lineup is because they just can't make enough of the M3 chips, with a lot of the TSMC sales going to different things. So they're going to have to ship it on a low volume thing, and we'll have to wait and see till Monday if this is true. Or they could actually be announcing their entire M3 lineup and then still say, these MacBooks are not shipping until next year, even if the boxes and all that stuff's ready.
That'll give them time to at least build up some inventory.
Yeah, and it'll also give them time to fix this massive vulnerability that's being found out in iOS and macOS if you use any of their WebKit web browsers.
I read through this. I was a little
It's
nervous.
slightly problematic. So this is according to a vulnerability known as iLeakage, and applies to all A series and M series chips. So that's both the iPhone, the iPad, and the MacBooks. And it works by using a side channel attack, and you only have to visit a website and then it can grab a ton of data. Researchers were able to get YouTube viewing history. I know what you watch. The content of the Gmail inbox, and a password as it's being autofilled by a password manager.
That
So
one
there-
is the scariest portion of this for me.
That's the scary one. Apple has announced that they are aware of it and they're going to be fixing it in an upcoming software release. It's not currently fixed as of the moment, and it requires a lot of reverse engineering going into things in order to make this work. It's being discovered that it's a vulnerability. It doesn't appear to be something that you should be super concerned about right at this moment, especially since Apple has said that they're going to be fixing it. But you're your best antivirus. Don't click on shady links, especially ones that Reece sends you.
Yeah, just don't trust them.
Don't do it. And your wrist is going to get a little shady if you go with Motorola's new smartphone that they showed off at the Lenovo event, because it's going to be shady because you're going to have something on it. So the sun's not going to have a shadow.
And therefore shade.
It's shady. So this is a flexible smartphone that can be slapped onto your wrist like one of those bracelets from the 1990s.
I straight up imagine one of those little bracelets.
So this is just a rollable prototype that can be bent and shaped into different forms depending on what you need. Instead of having one hinge where you fold it in half, it can be rolled up like a little sushi roll.
I did like the example of like standing it on itself.
I guess, but then you're putting your display on your table, which if there's dust or like rocks or anything,
it's gonna scratch for sure.
And considering like they have to use some sort of like plastic,
it's a plastic typically.
Like you're gonna damage it pretty easily if you do this. I don't know how practical this is. I don't think that there's a ton of use cases for people who have smartphones to actually use this.
No, this is a showcase phone and nothing else.
Yeah.
The person who actually buys this is gonna replace it in a year because the screen's too scratched.
And it does a few interesting things, like when you do it in the foldable situation, it turns it into a 4.6-inch display where it like moves the bar up so that it can still be usable like that. But that's gonna be very sturdy for me, to not wobble or like bend over. Like, no, I'm not fully on board with that.
I hope you are on board with deals though.
Oh, did you just segue on me? I didn't even have to tee that one up for you. We did nothing fun there.
No.
Catlin, put fun in the episode.
Fireworks, just little happy guys dancing everywhere.
Hey, deals!
Yeah,
got you.
Speaking of fun things dancing around, we've got this Bobo VR M2 Plus head strap, which I actually have one of these. I freaking love it. It's so I can keep playing VR for longer because it's got little magnetic batteries that like slap on the back, and you just put one on charge and have one on your headset, and you can perpetually do this in VR and keep going as long as you can stand being in VR. And this one's only $79.99 on sale, which makes it $39.01 off.
You said fun things dancing.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
I'm going for it. Is that supported on the Quest 3 that just came out?
No, it's not. Maybe.
That's sad. I'm sad now. Sad dances.
Sad dances. Okay. And then we have the Acer Nitro KG272U, which is a 27-inch 1440p 170Hz VA panel, going for only $169.99, making it $180 off. And then lastly, we have the Zotac GeForce RTX 4070 Twin Edge, which is their little guy. This 12 gig graphics card is going for only $519.99 with the included promo code, making it $30 off, and more 4070s under MSRP, so...
Well, it has 12 gigs of VRAM, so it should die.
Yeah, no, there might be something coming that like is forcing all these 4070s down in price. Who knows?
Like bad sales.
Like bad sales.
Who knows?
And with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below, but until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers.
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me.
All right, Reece, I got a bad deal for you.
Hit me.
You have to connect your PlayStation to the internet.
Wait.
Well, specifically, it comes with the attachable external disk drive that's going to be released on the new PS5 Slims.
Yeah.
If you buy one of them separately and you try to get it to work, you have to connect to the internet.
Why?
DRM.
Oh.
They want to make sure that you are not able to just put any sort of generic disk reader onto it, because then you could crack some things like, their games and then pirate them. And they don't want that.
Weird, but I kind of I get it, but I don't plan on using my PlayStation all that needs in it. So
yeah, I understand why people are bothered by this, but at the same time, like, you kind of do sign into like Sony's networks and stuff.
Yeah.
Already. There's a certain crowd where this is going to bother people. I think for most people, the initial setup's not really a huge deal. Additionally, like, Sony's always been one of the hardest stances on like anti-piracy stuff, like even from the PS1. Like, they had some really creative ways that they prevented people from being able to do stuff.
Do you remember those cool black discs? Those were really fun. I like those.
Well, I like fast internet, and Google Fiber is going to be rolling out some faster stuff. They promised that by the end of this year, they're going to have 20 gigabit fiber connections to residential areas.
What the heck? I can't even count that high. Oh my goodness. Here I'm happy with like getting a single gig.
Yeah, so Google Fiber offers 1 gig for $70 a month, 2 gig for $100, 125 for 5 gigs, and 150 for 8 gigs. And they've been doing 20 gigs to organizations like the University of Mizzou, as well as United Way out in Utah County. But they're promising by the end of this year, you get Wi-Fi 7 routers and you get 20 gig internet.
What am I going to do with all that speed?
I don't know.
Download the internet and then delete it just so I can download it again.
Well, so this is a conversation that I actually wanted to just kind of toss out to the audience because I can't really think of anything significant, but that also could just be because my ideas have not been expanded enough.
Yeah, what's out there?
In terms of not just like power users, because I can imagine that some of you have like very specific needs that 20 gigabit internet can actually really solve for you. But I'm talking like, what could 20 gigabit internet unlock for the average either user experience or work from home experience? You know, what is having that sort of bandwidth available to you actually do for, you know, Mr. Software Developer working from home?
I can see this being very beneficial to anyone working with like large amounts of media all the time, every day, at home.
Maybe it's Zuck's like little metaverse where they're streaming your face data across the internet and you're meeting in person, but from your bedroom.
Yeah.
And you're just wearing a green screen. So you're in your green screen boxers, but it actually makes it look like you're wearing real clothes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the future.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Reece. Well, speaking of Zuck and AI and all of that kind of stuff, Google search is also getting better about disclosing whether or not an image has been made by AI. They have an About This Image triple dot that you can click on, and typically that would tell you like more context, but now it's also going to tell you whether or not it's been generated or enhanced with AI, changed in any way, which this guy's enhanced by AI. But unfortunately, AMD is no longer going to be enhancing the experience of the RX 500 series or the RX Vega series. At least officially, this is canceled on their Linux Vulkan drivers. So this is the start of them discontinuing it.
It's where it begins.
So this is not all drivers everywhere. It has not been announced for Windows just yet, but it is part of the branch that went for the Vulkan drivers. It still appears on the AMD GPU kernels and the Mesa drivers, but not for the Vulkan drivers.
Yeah.
So I want to stress that this is not the worst deal ever for the people who have the RX 480, the RX 580, the RX 590, Vega 56, 64, Radeon 7, the thousands, the millions of you who have that GPU at home. But it does begin to spell the end.
Yeah.
Typically, Linux drivers get things first. It's also, we're seeing that it's ending first, but it's also the time AMD shuts things down after 7 years, and likely the Polaris GPUs were popular enough that they could continue to have support, but it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case in all sectors right now.
This one hits weird. I'm just so used to them always being a thing.
Well, it's the same time frame that we're talking about with the 1080 Ti, which you can no longer use on the Alan Wake 2 because of mesh shaders. So it's a strange situation. It's gonna be tense. Anybody who is currently on RX 4500 series and isn't a power user, an enthusiast who knows how to use hacky third-party drivers, which is
not everyone.
Also dangerous to begin with, unless you super know what you're doing. You might want to start prepping. Prep for that upgrade. Start browsing around Java, seeing what you can upgrade to. Well, now we're gonna browse around comments. Talk about comment response. Broke Dad 1 saying, now if NVIDIA can make a motherboard too, we can look forward to a $500 entry-level PC.
$5,000.
You're right. I read numbers wrong. But also, NVIDIA did have like branded motherboards. Like I think there were NVIDIA chipset motherboards way back in the day.
I feel like I remember this.
Yeah. Maggie Piefy, how am I supposed to read that? Saying, hot take, when I'm doing 4K high ultra settings on my 60 plus FPS on my 6950 XT, and I barely qualify for 1080p 60 FPS in Alan Wake 2 when 1080p in any other game, including Cyberpunk, would easily hit my FPS cap. And something is wrong somewhere in terms of computing flow and game design. If you lose that much performance for some incremental gains and your game scales that poorly between setting toggles, then yes, it's a badly made game. Okay, number one, this is not a hot take. You're agreeing with most people out on the internet. Number two, game settings don't scale poorly. They actually scale very sensibly. They just start very high.
Yeah.
So they start at 6600 for 1080p 30 with DLSS and FSR turned on, but then scale kind of across the board as you would expect. It's just starting very high up.
I think that's what's throwing a lot of people off is the barrier to entry here.
Yes. And also, like, Jimmy bringing up a point that I think I want to hammer home a little bit more, saying my thing with Alan Wake 2 is that the increases seem pretty incremental compared to the massive leap in hardware requirements. I get your argument for that. This is how tech advances, but at the same time, the tech demo didn't blow me away. The gains are not matching up to the increase in demand. Of course, we will need to wait to release to see that for sure. So, and then talking about how Red Dead looked amazing and it didn't need ray tracing and all of that. That's true. But here's, I think, my argument is not it looks that much better, but it uses new technology that's not supported on old GPUs, and these new GPUs allegedly don't do it well. It's ray tracing all over again, but now with shaders, which is something that's more broadly applicable across all GPUs, and you don't need dedicated ray tracing cores to support, but you do need mesh shader support in order to enable it. It's also very similar to the argument of when the PlayStation 5 came out and a lot of PlayStation 5 games didn't look that good. It was like, well, yeah, it is being made for the new hardware, but it didn't have enough time in the oven. So yes, mesh shaders in Alan Wake 2 might not be the best example of how mesh shaders can take things further, but it has to start somewhere.
I will say this is also like part of the argument that people are having in terms of like dropping older hardware now. We've been advocating that new games should drop support for like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One.
Which came out over a decade ago.
Yeah, to like advance games forwards, and now this is kind of happening on the PC side of things, and it's shaking people up a little.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because like hardware is not always guaranteed to support the newest games, but one of the beauties of PC gaming is that new hardware should support older games, which is still happening. So like it's just the first time in a very long time that we are seeing situations where the games are moving forward with new features and disabling the ability to use the old feature way. And I get why people are upset, but also like this is not unprecedented, and the game doesn't need to be the best looking game of all time to justify the fact that it's using new technology, because in order to make it better, people have to start using it. And as the dev talked about, the fact that they are using mesh shaders precludes them from using the other shaders very easily. In order to get a mod to support it, it's going to take a lot of workarounds. So it's not impossible, but in order for a game dev to develop for both pathways, you're asking for longer development time, more bugs, more issues, and like optimizing for both the old way and the new way so that everybody can be happy is exactly why Cyberpunk was trash on launch. The fact that they had to support PS4 and Xbox One is what ruined the launch.
That brought up a lot of conversation of what point do we start shipping off the older hardware?
Now, 7 years. That seems...
7 years seems like a reasonable timeline for me.
Well, we got Maya saying, I really wasn't kidding about keeping that 980 Ti for a bit longer. When I built this 6700K PC in 2015, I figured I'd use it for about 5 years before upgrading. That was before you know what happened, and now suddenly it's 8 years since I built the rig. Yet I can even run games like Control at 1080p with decent settings, while today's GPU market is highly questionable. I figured I'd use the 980 Ti to maybe tide me over until Intel's Battle Mage and such came out next year, give myself some more breathing room before splurging sad amounts of cash on GPUs I don't really want. That's fair, but also, I will throw this out there. You can still wait for Battle Mage. Keep your 980 Ti. You just don't have to play Alan Wake 2. That really is like putting the argument up. If this really is a problem, don't buy the game. And then show the game devs, hey, this is going to affect your sales. If you are going to do things that isolate people from using 7 to 10-year-old GPUs, well, then you're going to lose a large chunk of your market. And if that's not true, and they keep a large chunk of their market, well,
that's actually a good side of the conversation to have.
Yeah. So like honestly, if you dropping money on a brand new GPU in order to play a game that you're kind of pissed about, it signals to the devs that, hey, just because people are mad doesn't mean it's actually going to affect our bottom line.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you buy a new NVIDIA GPU right now, you get Alan Wake 2 for free, BT dubs, which you're getting for free because I just got you a new graphics card. This little sneaky slime ball. I've been begging him to let me get him a PC, and he was like, no. And then I found out, I saw him, he was searching for motherboards, and I was like, why are you searching for motherboards, Mac boy? And he was like, I need a PC for gaming and streaming, and I was like, so I got you one. You're gonna have to deal with that. Tasty Fan Pop says, I know Reece is an employee of UFD Tech Company. The chemistry between you two goes beyond just an employer and an employee. I'm curious to know how you guys actually met. His interview. The difference is, number one, we're a YouTube channel, so our jobs aren't super like intense or like corporate.
Yeah.
So that helps to give levity. But also, we've been through like essentially hell together. And
it's been a good couple of years at this point.
Yeah, you've been 6-year anniversary's coming up. Oh, next week. Next week's your 6-year anniversary.
Hey, yo!
That's the justification for the PC. You're welcome. It's your 6-year anniversary present. And in that time, we have moved across continents together. We have suffered. I've known Reece longer than I've known my youngest son. And then Reece also watched like our whole diagnostic journey of like getting him its treatment, and like he's lived with my family. Like we've been through a lot together, and that tends to, drive people apart sometimes. But if you choose to, it can also drive you together. He's gonna kill me. No, Deal Master. Dominic saying, stop making fool of us. Is he leaving or what? And then some people were like, bro didn't watch earlier episodes with the whole situation. But Mark Tackman saying, straight up, I'm calling it. Reece is staying. Anything could happen, but considering we've been red-pilled for so long in regards to this, I genuinely think people were really going to get really upset when he leaves. Number one, I don't think that's what red pill means. I think he used that atypically.
I can understand what he's trying to say with that, but I don't think that's the actual use case of the phrase. But.
Number two, that was kind of the point. Was that I wanted to force this situation where I know this is coming, and I'm gonna joke about it coming to like lessen my emotional turmoil towards it, but also try to convince you that something's weird, so that when it happens, it's actually a gut punch. Reece is leaving.
This isn't what we originally planned.
No, you're supposed to leave over a month ago.
Yeah. So, hi.
And then Ray Arthur saying, when Reece leaves, the first song that comes to my head is "I Really Want to Stay at Your House." And I see that you responded.
I saw that one. Yeah.
I couldn't wait for you to come and clear the cupboards. And before we ruin your ears more, we're gonna ruin your eyes by forcing you to go watch somebody else's video. Maybe hot news from yesterday.
Maybe that one.